In 1946, the Japanese government drew up a plan for Tokyo. Target population, 3.5 million people. Today it has 37 million. Every plan they ever made, the city ignored. Tokyo was already one of the largest cities on Earth before Japan had electricity. In the 1700s, Edo, what we now call Tokyo, had 1 million people living in it. London was smaller. Then came the Meiji Restoration. The seat of imperial power moved in, the samurai moved out, and the city scrambled to figure out what it was supposed to be. Then the Great Kanto earthquake hit. 1923, killed over 100,000 people, leveled the city. It grew back. Then American firebombing in 1945 destroyed most of what was left. By the end of the war, more than half the population had either died or fled. The city was rubble, ash, and 3 million shell-shock survivors. 9 years later, Tokyo was the largest city on Earth. It had overtaken New York. Nobody planned that, and nobody could explain it, which is exactly the problem, because people have been trying to plan Tokyo ever since. And the city has never once listened. Here's what the government tried. In 1958, they drew a 10-kilometer-wide ring around the city, a greenbelt, to stop the sprawl. Farmers and local councils immediately formed a political coalition to block it. The plan was abandoned by 1965. Then, Prime Minister Tanaka wrote an entire book about redistributing Japan's population away from Tokyo. He built highways and train lines to the provinces. People moved to Tokyo anyway. 4 major national frameworks, 7 decades of trying. Not one of them managed to slow the city down. Here's the thing, though. That's not a story about government incompetence. It's a story about what the city actually was. Because while the government kept drawing plans it couldn't enforce, something else was happening on the ground. Something faster, more distributed, and completely outside any blueprint. The city was being built by train companies. Here's how it actually worked. A private railway company would buy farmland on the far edge of the city, cheap because nothing was out there. Then they'd lay track to it, then build housing estates along the line, a department store at the terminal, a school or two, maybe a small amusement park. Then sell tickets to everyone who moved in, then buy more farmland further out and do it again. This wasn't altruism. It wasn't urban planning. It was a business model. Tokyu Corporation built an entire city this way, 5,000 hectares, 620,000 people, the largest private land development in Japanese history. No government master plan, no public funding, one company that wanted its farmland to be worth something. Seibu Group's founder was even more direct about it. He bought the land first, then built the railway to make it valuable. Tokyo is taught worldwide as a model of brilliant transit planning, and it should be. It's the greatest urban rail system ever built. 2,500 kilometers of track, 40 million passengers every single day. But most of it wasn't built by the government. It was built by Tokyu, by Seibu, by Odakyu, Keio, Tobu, Keikyu, Keisei, private companies, all of them running the same model: build the suburb, build the train, profit from both. The government's role, mostly, was to not stop them. The railways explain the skeleton, but they don't explain the flesh. Because the suburbs these companies built weren't empty boxes. They were absorbed villages, entire neighborhoods that already existed, with their own identity, their own local councils, their own street patterns, got folded into the metropolitan mass as the city expanded outward. Shinjuku was a town. Shibuya was a town. Ikebukuro was a town. Tokyo didn't replace them. It swallowed them whole, intact. After 1945, people returned to their neighborhoods and just started building, not with government permission, not according to a plan, informally, incrementally. One house, one workshop, one street at a time. These were, by any technical definition, slums, and the Japanese government did something remarkable. They left them alone. No forced clearances, no designation as illegal settlements, no redevelopment schemes designed to erase them. Sewage infrastructure quietly extended to reach them. Roads followed. The neighborhoods consolidated, upgraded themselves, and became permanent urban fabric. Researchers who study informal settlements around the world have pointed out something uncomfortable. Dharavi, Mumbai's enormous informal settlement, grows exactly the same way post-war Tokyo did. the same incremental logic, the same bottom-up consolidation. The difference isn't the growth, it's what the government decides to do when it sees it happening. Tokyo's government, in 1946, looked at informal housing rebuilding itself across the city and decided it was legitimate. That decision, quiet, almost bureaucratic, is part of why Tokyo works. Tokyo is cited constantly in urban planning literature as a success story, and it genuinely is, one of the safest, most functional, most livable large cities on Earth. But the lesson people draw from it, this is what good planning looks like, is almost exactly backwards. The plans failed. Every single one. The 1946 plan said 3.5 million. The city grew to 37 million. That's not a rounding error. That's the government being wrong by a factor of 10. What worked wasn't the plans. What worked was private companies filling the vacuum left by failed plans, neighborhoods rebuilding themselves without permission, a government that was bad at controlling things and, crucially, wise enough not to pretend otherwise. Tokyo succeeded through the failure of its plans, not despite it. Now, consider what we're doing with cities that are growing fast right now. Lagos, Kinshasa, Dhaka, cities adding millions of people every decade, most of it informal, most of it outside any master plan. The default response is that this informality is the problem, that it needs to be controlled, contained, formalized, redeveloped. But if Tokyo is the counterexample, and it might be the most important counterexample in the history of city building, then that framing might be exactly wrong. It's possible the informal city isn't the problem. It's possible the cities that survive the next century of growth are the ones whose governments are bad at stopping it. And it's possible the ones that fail are the ones that planners got to first.